We are so coordinated now. Oh, do you want to know what's on today?
Yes, please.
Okay, the people that prepared this, the Globe Trotter's Guide, the authors, Carol Adelinko and Wayne Smits, they will give you advice on how not to get scammed when you go around the world, you know.
Like Blaine? Or like
yeah,
where?
Blaine, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Blaine, or Hawaii.
Yeah, that's thank you. I'll
yeah,
read up.
no, you never know, but I mean, it's really all kinds of useful stuff. So anyway, I'll talk to them and find out how you don't get ripped off when you go like strange places. And most people like to travel, although most of us like to know where the Hilton is. But if the thought of crowded airports and weird food and all kinds of strange cultures makes you nervous, but you really think you want to be a bit braver, you ought to consider this, because it's the Globetrotter's Guide, and these two people have prepared this. They are world travelers, and this is how to stay out of trouble or get into trouble, I guess. This is Carol Adelinko. Hi. Hi, and this is Wayne Smits on this side. Okay, so you guys decided to collaborate even though you'd never traveled together.
Oh, yes.
Why did you do that?
Well, initially I started the book many years ago. I'm a writer, short story writer, and I thought I would like to do a project that would extend more than 21 pages. So being a traveler with that kind of background, I thought, yeah, that would be the perfect vehicle to actually do a book.
And you don't just, you're not an armchair traveler. You've been to how many countries?
About 64, 65.
And all by yourself?
Yeah.
You never go with anybody?
I've gone a couple times with people, but I much prefer to go on my own. Much easier.
I would say that most women don't go alone.
They didn't used to. More and more women are knowing and getting empowered by the fact that they can go on their own. So that's starting to change.
It's one thing to go to Paris on your own. It's quite another to go some of the places you have been.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's not that difficult. I think there's a misconception about how hard it is and how much trouble there's going to be. It's not. It's a great time, and if you go with confidence and a bit of knowledge in your back pocket, it's not difficult at all.
What about, you go alone too?
I've gone in different situations, whether it was by myself or with a couple other friends or a girlfriend. Each one has their own benefits and drawbacks.
I would think the drawback is lonely. You're
no,
never,
not really.
Yeah,
no.
You're never really alone. You're never really alone, because when you're traveling on your own, everybody wants to meet you. If you're with somebody, your attention is already with them.
Yes.
When you're on your own, locals feel much more comfortable coming up to you. There's an extra chair at a dinner table, and people want to talk to you, and you're always surrounded by people.
And I suppose if you go with another, then you're kind of like a little capsule unto yourselves, and you don't get the same experiences.
Yeah, sometimes you get to be a little reclusive. When you're by yourself, you are forced to open yourself up and to meet other people and be a little extroverted, actually.
Yeah, it's a great way to get over shyness.
Yeah,
definitely.
I'm keen on the bribe chapter. Yes, when to and when not to. So when do you bribe people and when do you not? Now, I've always found it works quite nicely if you're trying to take a school bus full of people illegally into Mexico. I don't know. That worked.
Yeah. It's a touchy subject for a lot of people. You shouldn't really try to promote the whole bribing angle. You should only really have to do it when you have to do it in certain times where you're stuck, where you might have to turn around and go the opposite direction, costing you many miles and many days, sort of thing.
At which point you might offer to somehow pay the penalty, what is ever required by.
Mm-hmm. Or expedite a certain search.
So you would use those kind of expressions.
Yeah, I mean, something like I was trapped in Nepal, actually, and all the planes flying out were, there was a huge backlog of 5 days, and I didn't even have a ticket. And I happened to know somebody who worked in the airport, and I said, so how much would it actually cost to get on a flight? He said, well, depends if you're paying in traveler's checks or cash. And I said, well, let's say cash.
Let's just say cash.
And
let's just say U.S. cash?
Let's just say U.S. cash and big bills. And before you knew it, I was actually on the first flight out of town.
Well, how much did you have to, how much graft did that cost you?
$25 US.
Really? Well, that was almost worth it then, wasn't it?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
It saved me 5 days, yeah.
No kidding. And what did you do?
Well, see, running an import business out of Central and South America, a place like Peru, for example, I would bring down electronic goods, things that were hard to get there. They had like a 300% luxury tax on all these goods. So I had friends and
Still,
family.
is it like that?
I'm not sure. It's been a number of years since I've been there. But just coming into the country, leaving the country with goods like sweaters, jewelry, things like that, whenever the immigration people, customs people, anyone with a uniform at the airport, if they see that you're carrying goods or you're making money, they want their cut of it.
Right.
So I had to bribe one time, three people to get out of the country with goods.
To get out of the country.
That's right. It's not like it's illegal or anything. It's almost a course of business.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what about, there's another fascinating bunch of tales in there about con guys, usually con men, not always though.
Yeah.
Well, and funny thing, actually, when you're traveling, it's usually men that get taken by these things more than women do. Women, when you're traveling, your guard is up. I mean, and that women's intuition actually comes into play a lot. So it's usually men that are a bit more susceptible. Mind you, I've also been pulled into something.
Like what?
Buying gems in India. I thought I was buying these beautiful
ruby, maybe?
Oh, no, it was a star of India. It was gorgeous. It was fabulous. And by the time the stones actually got back to Canada and my mom received them, she informed me that it was gravel. And I said, gravel? And I said, you mean rocks, right? And she said, no, it's like gravel from a back alley. And I was fortunate enough because I was still in India and went back to the shop that this had happened at.
And you said?
I want my money back.
And they said,
well, I actually went with a very, very big Englishman.
Yes.
And he was like Rambo. And he just started shaking the jewelry cases. And I was like, oh my God. I was terrified, but I got all my money back.
But were able to keep the gravel?
Well, no, I think my mother threw it out, actually.
But that situation was a classic case of bait and switch. After she bought it, they took it in the
Bait
back.
and switch?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're buying one particular
Oh, I
thing.
see. Then they package it up and
That's right. It's
switch
out of
it
your
around.
sight and they switch it around.
And that happens with carpets as well. I mean, things like that. You buy a gorgeous carpet overseas, and by the time you get home, you're thinking, that's not my color scheme, and it's not the size. And a simple thing that you can do for that is photograph your carpet or sign the back of it.
And then you get all the way back to Vancouver, and you have open the carpet up, and it's not your carpet. What are you going to do? You drag it back. You can't drag it back.
What can you
How
do?
about dragging it out of the store when you purchased it? How about when you buy some gemstone or something, that you just say, I'll take that with me, sir.
That's probably the best way of doing it. But a lot of times when you're traveling for an extended period of time, you can't be carrying these things around with you, especially larger items like carpets.
Carpets, that it would be a bit of a drawback.
Yeah, I actually bought some carpets in Kashmir in the middle of winter when no one was around. I didn't have any money, but between my Seiko watch and $100 was basically a down payment for about $2,000 worth of carpets. I couldn't carry them, so they said they'd ship them home for me. Well, naively enough, I left them with them. And I was in Thailand, I was with some other people that live in Nepal and do a lot of business in northern India, and they laughed at me, saying, are you kidding? You'll never see them. Fortunately enough, they did actually send them.
Did you write them a nice letter?
Oh, yes, I did, but the thing is, I also bought a fur jacket to leave with them to send with the package.
Right.
It never arrived. So,
The fur jacket never. Where do you think it went missing?
who knows?
Yeah.
To another tourist, probably.
No kidding.
Yeah.
You take a lot of photographs.
Yeah, I'm a travel photographer.
Yeah, so that's how you make your living doing that?
I wish.
Yeah. Well, I thought we should look at some of them, and I don't know what's up first, but this is, let me guess, Nepal.
That is Nepal, actually. It's in the Kumbh region. It was actually the largest monastery in the Everest region. And unfortunately, sadly enough, it had been unchanged for about 300, 400 years. And with Western intervention, some wonderful company decided they needed electricity. About 9 months after electricity came in, the entire monastery burnt down.
Right, so walk around over there, just don't leave your crazy ideas behind.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes, we have good intention, but sometimes it doesn't come across or it doesn't work as well
Or
as
it doesn't translate well into their culture.
That's right, and where you think what these people really need.
Yeah, who are we to really tell them what they need?
Well, yeah, especially along the lines of electricity. Maybe
Yeah.
a well isn't such a bad idea.
Yeah.
Clean water.
Yeah, clean water,
absolutely.
yeah. I understand it costs about $5,000 to drill a well, and lots of places don't have a well. And I think, why don't we give money to that? You must run across this sort of thing all the time.
Well, and unfortunately, sometimes we do give money to do things like build wells or to aid agencies, and sometimes the money doesn't get to where it's supposed to
well,
go.
that's a pain.
Because, and that's a sad thing, actually.
Well, let's look at a couple more pictures, and you can tell me where you've been.
Oh, this is wonderful. This was a little girl that I met in the Masai Mara in Kenya.
Yeah.
And if you can see in her right earlobe, she's actually got an ever-ready battery.
Nice color scheme.
Yeah, beautiful. And around her neck, she's actually got a ring of keys. Now, she lives in a mud hut. And
Doesn't really need to lock up, no.
Doesn't need to lock up anything. But I just found it ironic that she had an ever-ready battery. And what we would dispose of and just chuck away, she's actually utilizing.
Now, it could be Long Beach, but you know, it's a little balmier than that. Where is that?
It's a long way away from Long Beach. That's in Fiji, actually. It's a tiny little atoll, about 2 hours by boat. And there's actually, that's where the tribal wars, after the tribal wars, the village chiefs would bring the other village chiefs' heads and boil them. There was a whole lot of
been there?
cannibalism.
No, I haven't.
Well, I guess you look at her pictures and want to go all the places she's been too.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Now, I bet, where's this?
Well, that's in northern Thailand, actually.
Yeah,
and,
Hill Tribe.
Hill Tribe, yeah, I believe that's a Hill Tribe, but you can see she's got something in her mouth.
Yeah.
And
It's called betel
betel
nut.
nut, yeah.
Yeah, it's quite common in Asia. Yeah.
And is it an intoxicating thing to chew the betel nut?
Well, it's stimulating. It's an appetite suppressant. It also numbs the mouth for bad dental hygiene. And again, it gives the people energy to continue on with their day without having to
so it's
eat.
a speedy kind of thing.
Yeah, pretty well.
Unlike these characters.
Oh, man.
They're in no hurry.
They're in no hurry, and don't try. And what's that on their sides?
That's huge blocks of salt, actually, and this was a camel caravan that was coming in from the Sahara, obviously, to Timbuktu, and they'd been away for about 4 weeks. And they go off into the middle of the desert, dig up these huge blocks of salt, and bring them back to Timbuktu to sell.
She's had a pretty good time, have you?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, I haven't traveled to as many countries as she have. I travel mostly to countries over and over again. I've been to about 35. I'm still yet to. Originally, when we met, I was on my way to Africa. Ironically, I never made it that way. I've been spun around a few different times, but yeah, I've still.
Well, maybe this will be a big seller, and you'll be required to go.
We should be.
Thanks very much. I really appreciate it. Who publishes it now? You guys self-publish.
No, regular Collins Press.
All right.